What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bear Down Boys podcast. To my right is Jared, RJ Rice Sports. Right below me is the legend Miller Football. The quick and straight to the point. We are a Bears podcast, straight up, just Chicago Bears all day, all night. You know. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. That was certainly the intro of all time.
I'll get better.
It'll come with time.
Yeah.
Sure. It is episode 1. There will be improvements.
It'll come with time.
Eventually. All right. Yes. We are in the preseason. We the first Bears game just went over this Saturday. I think I speak for all of us. It went pretty excellently. I didn't watch it live, but I watched the tweets eventually, and it was amazing. And then I watched the game, and it was even more amazing. So, what was your guys' overall feelings about the game?
I mean, I was pretty happy with it. A lot of the guys that I was looking forward to watching, namely Roschon Johnson, Robert Burns, Zach Pickens, Tyreek Stevenson, guys like that, all balled out, and we'll talk about them here later on, I'm sure. But I was pretty content with it. I was happy with what I saw. It was an engaging preseason game, which is surprising. And I felt like it's the opposite of what we're going to see during the season, because the defense was more fun to watch than the offense. And, you know, for the most part, obviously the beginning of the game was a little bit different, but it was nice to see the defense actually do something, because I'm sure we won't be seeing a lot of that in the regular season.
Yeah, I think, it was exactly what you kind of expect from preseason. It was pretty sloppy on both sides, a lot of turnovers on both sides of the ball, a lot of solid defense for I don't want to say for both sides. I will say, I think our starting offense, like the number ones, did a little too well, that they, scored immediately both times they had the ball. So I didn't get to watch the starters, but when they have 4 plays or something like that. So I wish the Titans put up more of a fight with their defense to start the game. But, watching the first team offense from the little tiny bits we saw, offensive line looked better than I thought. In training camp, we were hearing all these things about the defensive line was kind of, going to town on them. They weren't doing that great, given there was a lot of injuries or minor things where it was rotating the offensive line a whole lot. Nate Davis has been practicing and not practicing.
Yeah, Davis was the only one that didn't play in the preseason game.
Yeah, well, technically Lucas Patrick is our number 2 right guard, but he also didn't play. So then Jatir Carter was playing right guard,
and he hooped.
I was impressed. Honestly, I was impressed with all of them. I think they all did a serviceable job. Yeah, they weren't perfect, but it's the first preseason game. You can't expect that. Which I had seen on Twitter, someone had pointed out, maybe it's not that our offensive line was bad in training camp. Maybe our defensive line was just that good, because, once we got to the game, they did have 8 or 9 sacks, which was almost half as what we had the entire year last year. So it was pretty entertaining to watch. Preseason, when you get to watch all the rookies for the first time, and pretty much every single one of our rookies had a good game, except maybe Tyler Scott, but I don't want to just throw him under the bus like that.
He only got 1 target. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, he didn't play awful. He didn't get a ton of playing time, and it again, first preseason game, they're always sloppy. That's just how it is.
Yeah. On the bright side, he outplayed Velus on punt returns.
That's not
that's
that
hard.
It's not, but I'm just saying, at least he wasn't Velus.
I'm not Velus. I can do better. I wouldn't muff a punt. I can probably say this. I would not muff a punt.
Oh, I would certainly muff a punt, but I'm just not a professional athlete.
I think any one of us would muff a punt.
Have you ever tried to catch a punt?
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
No, it's hard. The ball's 50 feet in the air
until you see the gunner sprinting full speed at
also
you, and you're thinking about how bad how hard he's about to hit you.
I think the problem would be me getting under the ball, not me catching the ball. I think that's the difference.
Yeah. I will say
it goes hand in hand, though. You have to do both. Yeah.
But muffing's not being there; it's dropping it.
The issue with Velus's muff, though, is it wasn't like he missed the ball; he was just a moron. He let it bounce. You don't let it bounce and then try to catch it off the bounce. If it bounces, you let it go. Mm-hmm. That's punt returner 101. If it bounce, you don't try to then get up underneath of it, let somebody hit you and have it hit off your hands. Like that.
I will say I wouldn't have been mad if he let it bounce and then got it if there wasn't a dude full speed like 5 seconds away from absolutely ramming through him.
Also
but
that,
you know, he
But I'm
decided
saying
that
it's
was the
just-
move to go. But
It's a good habit to get into where if it bounces, you let it go.
well, I
It's
could be mistaken, but I think that there was another punt before that where he also let it bounce, but then he like I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he let another one bounce at some point. It was either before that or after that, which
yeah.
is
And I
not how
mean-
you he I mean he's not doing the whole fumbling or muffing the punt every single time, but now he's just not acting like a punt returner and it's completely useless. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Velus gives me he hurts my soul a
Gives me
lot.
anxiety
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. No, it's tough with Velus because I still see a role for him on offense. I hate him on punt returns. They just need to take him off punt returns. He's a good kick returner. Leave him there. And then try to use him as a gadget guy on offense. But the only problem with that is you drafted Tyler Scott, who is just a better Velus Jones. So, like, his role in the offense is kind of gone. And then if you really need a kick returner, Khalil Herbert returns kicks. Dante Pettis is there to return kicks, and he won't drop anything. Like, Tyler Scott can do it. So it's like a year after he got drafted, his role in the team has been completely replaced.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel bad. But then again, it's his own fault.
He I think coming out of the draft, I had mentioned that like I like him as a gadget guy and a special
Mhm.
teamer. Special team, obviously. Again, you'd mentioned kick return. He's solid at. Like at the end of last year, he had a few pretty good returns.
Yeah.
But yeah, like punt return, he's borderline like unplayable there. I don't even want to say borderline. He probably is unplayable there. He has shown no improvement from last year. Debatably, even like he's gotten worse from last year, which is very hard because he lost us like 3 games alone last year.
Well, I don't want to overreact over one game, say he's worse than
Yeah.
last year, but it doesn't look promising.
He just like both times that he had the punt, you know, he just let it bounce, which like you said, I mean, in certain situations, yes, but he's like getting the punt at like midfield and then just letting it bounce, and it's a no-no. But
Yeah.
I could see him having a role on the offense as like, you know, a very limited role, yes, but like end arounds, you know,
Right.
kind of like I don't have an example of a player, but like maybe a Debo
Jarvin?
Light kind of a thing.
Oh
where,
God,
like,
don't
more
say
so just
Debo Light
listen.
ever again with
Listen.
Velus Jones.
Okay.
I know you don't mean what Bears Twitter meant, but I get flashbacks anytime I hear it. No, his would be more of like
example of a player.
like a Tyquan Thornton or Calvin Austin or Gunnar Olszewski or something like that. I don't know why the Patriots and the Steelers are the only 2 teams that come to mind. Isaiah McKenzie, kind of. Like, there's a lot of gadget guys out there, and I agree that that's what Velus's role should be. But like I said, the problem is you have Tyler Scott, and he's better at that and can be that. Well,
I think my thing with the different, they're like they're similar to an extent, but they're also very different players. Like Scott is just more of like an elusive, like I don't know, like a route runner kind of a guy. Velus Jones, I feel like he's not like a huge receiver or anything like that, but he's like, you know, he's bulkier, he's harder to bring down.
That's fair.
That was something I noticed like with last season is he's just harder to bring down. That's why I say like Debo Light. Again, not even close to Debo, like not nearly the amount of plays, not nearly the amount of skill, but just like
listen,
get the ball in his hands
he
and he can make some plays sometimes.
He is what happens when mom says we have Debo at home. Yeah, that's what Velus is.
Diet Debo because all diet drinks are awful, but
no, I get what you're saying. And Tyler Scott, like, I'm not trying to say he's just a gadget guy. He's absolutely a separator and can make plays downfield. I'm just saying, like, I think if it comes down to it, because obviously you can only carry so many receivers, and if Velus isn't going to provide special teams value, they might favor Dante Pettis over him. So I don't know. We'll have to see with that. But like, the point is, I would rather have Tyler Scott than Velus Jones because Tyler does a lot more, and I think he can do what Velus is doing.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Hopefully, we can figure that out by not week 1 when Velus takes a punt and muffs it for us and loses the game against the Packers, which would be the worst thing possible.
No, I think Velus is done on punt duty.
You think so? You
I
don't
would
think-
hope so.
I think
You
he'd
never know.
malpractice if he
If
stopped,
I was Eberflus, I wouldn't put him back there again.
The Bears have
I'd
done-
make him stand on the sideline and watch while everyone else doesn't and say, see, it's not hard. This is all you have to do. I'd put everybody back there. I'd put Pettis back there. I'd put Eddie Jackson back there, like in practice, right? I'm not talking about in a game, but like I'd have Pettis catch punts. I'd have Eddie Jackson catch punts. I'd have Tyler Scott do it. I'd have Khalil Herbert do it. I'd have Kari Blasingame do it. I'd even put Tevin fucking Jenkins out there and have him catch the ball and say, look, it's not hard. Put
It's not.
Javon Dexter out there. Get George McCaskey out there catching a damn punt. I'm sure he can do it better than Velus does.
True.
I
Put
mean-
me out there. I'll show up to camp. I'll sit there and watch the whole time and then just call me out. I'll field a punt. I'll probably muff it and then Velus, he can show Velus that he is on the tier of a 5'10" white suburban male. But the point is, like, there's no reason why his punt muffing should exist. It shouldn't happen. If you're an NFL football player, you should not muff punts the way he muffs punts. Like, I get it. Accidents happen. Things happen. I get it. I'm not saying every muffed punt should be a cuttable offense, but when it happens consistently and it happens in really stupid ways like it did last week, it should be a cuttable offense.
He's
Yeah.
getting closer, I think. It's, especially
I mean,
the way it's spoken on Twitter, at least. That's what it sounds like.
I was at the Washington like Thursday night football game last year, and that was a game where he muffed a punt, which basically lost us the game. We had the drive on offense, and then Mooney bobbled the ball, and we didn't get it. But like, they literally wouldn't have had the ball if he didn't muff it, and he got booed out of the stadium. Which, given that was like week 4 or 5 or something of his rookie year, which I think is a bit excessive. But then he also lost. He muffed the punt against the Giants in clutch time, which again didn't like lose us the game, but was a main factor in us losing the game. Stuff like that can't happen that often whenever your entire role on the team at that point was being a punt returner. I think honestly at this point I think of it more as like a mental thing, because he's a talented dude. It's just like there's got to be some kind of mental aspect coming into this of why he like literally cannot catch a punt. It's atrocious at this point.
He might just be in his own head. Like, he keeps seeing, he might be on Twitter all the time, seeing how people talk about him, and he might just be in his own head about it.
You don't even have to go to Twitter. I'm sure the boos in the stadium are enough to
Yeah,
to
but
mess with his head.
even in preseason when it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's Bears fans in the stands. I can tell you
They
that.
are a little crazy, but it's
A
fun.
little. That's being generous.
On a side note, I know this is early. There's still 2 preseason games. What do you think the chances are he doesn't make the team?
Like I said, it depends on the receivers that they want to keep, because obviously you have Moore, Mooney, Claypool. Those are the big 3. Tyler Scott's going to make the roster. He's way too talented to not. Equinemius St. Brown's going to make the roster because of what he brings as a run blocker. He has that familiarity with Getsy, and he was our most consistent wide receiver last year. So that's 5 guys, right? So how many receivers are you realistically going to carry? Like 6, maybe 7? At that point, it gets down to Darius Fountain, Simba Webster, Dante Pettis, and then Velus Jones, obviously. So, like, if they keep 7 receivers, I'd say he makes the roster. If they keep 6, I don't know. It's close between him and Pettis. But I think with the consistency and just the fact that Pettis can actually field a punt might get him the job over Velus, which I know is going to piss people off because people really don't like Dante Pettis. But, like, he's at least consistent. He's not good, but he's consistent.
I think the reason people don't like Pettis is because he's not a starting caliber receiver, and he was thrown into being a starting a starting role last year, which like it hurt Justin Fields a little bit, not having an actual reliable like starting receiver at like any level after like Mooney went down and Claypool got hurt. Which isn't his fault. Like, he is what he is. He's a rotational, special teams kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's all right. He's nothing special, but him having to be a number 1 receiver for most of the year made him like it definitely like hurt his image from Bears fans. I don't like love Pettis, and I'm like, oh, I don't want. It's not like I want him to like start or anything, but I at this point, I think given that they have like similar-esque roles because we haven't really seen Velus be like a gadget guy on the offense too much. I would give it to Pettis. I also don't see us carrying 7 receivers at this
I don't
point.
either, but
Well, because like, I mean, you only have so many roster spots. We
Mhm.
already have like a plethora of talented running backs, and I don't think we cut
Yeah.
one of those guys to make
this
room
team's
for
probably going to
Velus.
carry 4 halfbacks, 3 tight ends, a fullback, however many quarterbacks, a ton of defensive linemen. Like it's going to be tough to make a lot of spot room for receivers, especially when you look at the drop off after Equinemius St. Brown. Because when you start getting into Dante Pettis, Simba Webster, Isaiah Ford, Joe Reed, and Velus, it's Crookshank already got cut.
Did he?
Yeah, he got cut before the
for,
preseason game for an offensive lineman. I can't
yeah,
remember
for
his
the
name.
see that.
lineman from the Lions.
Was it Stenberg?
Yeah, I
Logan
could not think of
Stenberg?
the name. So
Yeah.
good thing you did.
That's my starting card in our Mantle League.
But yeah, he I don't see this team carrying more than like 5 or 6 receivers. And if it comes down to 6, it comes down to him versus Pettis. I think at this point I'd prefer Pettis.
Mm-hmm. I think 1,000% you take
It
that.
sucks because, like, I mean, I like Poles, and I think he's done a tremendous job. I'm not like they all GMs make mistakes. It's just
Look at
That's how
Howie
it is.
Roseman. Everyone praises him as the best GM in football. He drafted Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson.
yeah. I mean,
Like
that's a big one, yeah.
GMs make mistakes. It's part of the thing.
And I
He
mean,
was-
if his biggest mistake is, so I mean, it's only been 2 years, so like there's
Mhm.
obviously time for more. Hopefully not.
Right.
But if his biggest mistake so far is a 3rd round receiver who just didn't pan out, I'm not gonna be mad.
And yeah, when you look at the reasons why he drafted him, first of all, Fields wanted him, which is great. You know, that was a great way to instill in the kid that he's the guy.
Mhm.
And on top of that, we were the worst after catch team in football the year before, and Velus Jones was the best after catch receiver in college football. So it makes sense. It didn't, like, you took a gamble on a guy that fit what your offense needed. They needed dynamism, and he was a dynamic playmaker in college. You take that swing, I understand it completely. It didn't pan out, sucks, so be it. He made up for it. He traded for DJ Moore. He traded for Chase Claypool, who I still think is going to be good. I don't care what anybody says. You have Darnell Mooney. You have Tyler Scott, who I'm a big fan of. You have plenty of resources to get more receivers going forward. Like, I'm okay with Velus Jones being chalked up as a miss. I'm not. It's not the end of the world for me with all of the good that Ryan Poles has done so far. That's like the one big mistake he's made.
Because, like, I mean, there's been other like misses, but I don't count like late round guys as misses because
No.
the success rate of late round guys as is like nothing. Those are
Even
just
in the
shots
3rd
dark.
round, it's kind of iffy.
I mean, yeah, it's fair. Like, I mean, Jatir Carter was a late round guy, and he looks super solid. You know,
Braxton Jones
Braxton
is a 5th round pick.
the obvious one. Yeah, Braxton Jones is like, he looks like a potential like franchise left tackle.
He's going to be a top 10
round.
tackle at the end of this year.
He looked really good in preseason. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
again, not a ton of snaps, but like the few that he did have, it was I was very impressed with it. But like he's had like not just like good picks, but a lot of his picks have been like borderline great. I don't want to like overhype him or anything, but like he's had some great picks with like the first offseason with such limited resources. He doesn't have a 1st round pick with an atrocious team. He gets 2 2nd round picks. He gets, Kyler Gordon, who kind of had a rough start to his rookie year, but then
they were
he
playing
picked
him
up
out
at
of
the end.
position. Yeah, once they put him where he needs to be in the nickel, he looked fantastic.
I think honestly, like, I'm a big fan of Kyler Gordon. I think it's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber year. I say Pro Bowl not in the fact of like how everyone gets into the Pro Bowl now, like from a talent. He's a
no,
top guy
I
in
get
his
it.
position.
I get it.
And I feel like I have to clarify that nowadays, but
You give the guy an entire offseason in the nickel, which is where he's supposed to be playing. Kyler Gordon is a nickel corner, which Matt Eberflus raves and raves and raves about as being one of the most important positions on his defense. It's the linebacker, the 3-tech, and the nickel corner. You look at what they had in Indianapolis, they had Kenny Moore, who's one of the best nickels in football. You have Kyler Gordon now, who I think is more athletically gifted than Kenny Moore. We saw him in the preseason lighting dudes up, which is great. I love that. More of that, please. Inject it directly into my veins. And you work with that. He was a little bit of a ball hawk last year. You continue to build on that, and you just give him reps in his natural position with Jalen Johnson on one side and Tyreek Stevenson on the other. And I agree. I think Kyler Gordon's going to be awesome this year. I think he is like, this is a weird statement, a franchise nickel for the Bears. I don't know if anyone's ever described a player as a franchise nickel, but I do think Kyler can be that.
All positions here, so yes, nickel can be franchise nickel.
Well, I'm not saying there's no such thing. I'm just saying I don't know if anyone's ever used that term before.
I just think his potential is like insane with his athleticism. And like, okay, I know we all dislike Eddie Jackson's tackling ability and his lack of effort most of the time, but I feel like Poles, with accepting that what the flaws in Eddie Jackson are, has built the rest of the secondary around people who aren't afraid to hit. Brisker, big hitter. Kyler Gordon, he's not even like a big dude, and he's just a freak athlete. But
he's scrappy.
He loves to hit. I mean, in the preseason, from behind, he comes and lights this dude up. Like,
he was bullying him the entire time he was on the field. It was Moore. I can't remember his first name, but Moore for the Titans. He was beating the shit out of him the whole game.
Yeah, like, and then on the other side, you got Tyreek Stevenson, who
was everywhere.
Should have gotten that pick, but other than that, like, great game. The receiver screen was one of my favorite plays of the entire game. I know that's like a very not a very important play, but it was just like
Stevenson read it perfectly. He played it perfectly.
So good. I love scrappy corners. That's like my ideal cornerback. I just love dudes who like to hit.
Tyreek Stevenson gives me Kyle Fuller vibes, and I love it.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, and I was a big Kyle Fuller guy. He was one of my favorite players, like in the entire league.
The difference is though, Kyle Fuller, as much as I loved him, he wasn't the most athletic guy in the world. He relied a lot on technique, being smart, and being physical. Tyreek Stevenson is all of that and a lot more athletic.
We just need him to have the week 2 or whatever of Kyle Fuller's rookie year against the 49ers. We had 2 interceptions or something like that. It was insane.
No, listen, call me crazy. I think, and this is coming from me being high on Tyreek before the draft. He was my CB5. I had a first round grade on him. I loved the guy. I think he has potential to be like a true CB1 in this league. And, whether or not that means he's going to play alongside Jalen or Jalen's going to go elsewhere, which is definitely possible. I think he can be awesome for us long term. I really like where our secondary is heading, even with the somewhat of a blemish that is Eddie Jackson's tackling ability. Like you said, they've done a good job making up for it everywhere else.
I mean, because all players have weaknesses, and it's you're supposed to do other things with different players to hide those weaknesses, and I think he's done a great job doing so. Because, I mean, Eddie Jackson, he is not a good tackler. I think he showed last year. He put a little bit more effort.
That's the thing. It's the effort. I don't want to insult professional football player's heart or effort by any means, because obviously he's doing a hell of a lot more than I am physically, right? But the truth of the matter is Eddie Jackson makes a lot of business decisions when it comes to tackling. It's a lot of I'm not going to risk this one. Saquon Barkley's coming at me full speed. Nah, it's somebody else's problem. Aaron Jones on 3rd and 1. Nope. Let one of the linebackers take care of it. And I respect Eddie Jackson. I feel for him. Dude's been through a lot of shit in the past couple years. And I love what he brings as a leader. I love what he brings in coverage, but I just can't get behind a safety that can't tackle. If he was a corner, different story. Eddie Jackson would be one of my favorite players. But as a safety, and I know people will say, oh, he's a free safety. I don't care. He's a safety. He's supposed to be the safety net. He's supposed to be the last line of defense if someone breaks a big play, and I don't trust him to consistently make a play back there. Now, you have Brisker, granted, he's going to play up in the box a good bit, but, he kind of makes up for it. Like Jarrett said, the way this team has been, or the secondary has been built around Eddie Jackson makes me like him more, but I still have my issues with him.
Well, didn't Eddie in the last game get stiff armed by Tajay Spears on a play?
He did, but Tajay Spears is also that fucking guy. So.
Tajay is that guy. I don't know why he's returning kicks, but
well, he can return kicks. I don't see
he's a running back. You want to protect him as much as you can.
He's their RB2.
Derek's retiring in 2 years.
Respectfully, I hope so, because I want Spears to get all of the reps. No disrespect to Derrick Henry. Guy's great. But running back started that slump. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
The angle was off, and he got absolutely killed on that play. He got stiff-armed, and it was ugly.
Well, hey, it's the preseason. He's got to, shake some of the rust off. His
just feel like
angles
he's
have
good.
never been an issue with me. It's just the effort. Like when
I
he
think-
wants to tackle, he can. Sorry,
Well, he
Jared,
gave
I don't
the
mean to
effort,
cut
you're
you
good.
off, but
Guilt.
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I think like the perfect coach for a guy like Eddie Jackson is Eberflus. The hits principle, which was something that like from day one he preached, and I think like at least me as a Bears fan, I'm like that's like the greatest thing I've ever heard. And again, he wasn't perfect last year, but I think compared to years past, Eddie Jackson definitely like put in more effort.
Sure.
I mean,
I don't
week
disagree with
1
that.
against the 49ers was one of the things that stood out. I mean, he didn't tackle well, but he was at least like, trying.
Yeah.
I mean,
Listen,
he
that's
went
all I'm
head-to-head with
asking.
Debo, and I mean, Debo embarrassed him, but he tried.
Yeah.
That's
Listen,
all you
if
can
you're a
ask.
safety or if you're a player that struggles tackling but at least puts in effort, I can get behind that. I can excuse that. Like, I'm still not going to love it. I'm still going to have issues with it because tackling is like the number one fundamental principle of defense. But like, if you're trying, if you're putting in effort, if I see you consistently at the ball, trying to wrap dudes up, trying to hit somebody, I'm going to have a lot more respect for you than somebody who makes those business decisions. And it's not like this is just an Eddie Jackson thing. There's plenty of DBs across the league that are like that. And again, corners, I don't care. That's whatever. But when it comes to a safety, it's tough. But last year, I would definitely say was Eddie Jackson, up until he got hurt, it was Eddie Jackson's best season since 2018. And the tackling was better last year than it even was in 2018. Because 2018, the tackling was evident there. Like in the Giants game that we ended up losing in overtime, there was a point where it was 3rd and long and they ran the ball up the gut with Saquon. Eddie Jackson was right there and he like stepped to the right instead of like breaking down in front of Saquon like you're supposed to. He like stepped to the right and then tried to dive at him and wrap him from the side, and it didn't work because it was Saquon before the injuries were an issue.
He was Saquon last year.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to transition, but because
No, you can transition. I was just gonna say I liked the effort a little bit more last year, so you can
for sure. And that's the Eberflus effect. That's why I love Eberflus so much.
All right. I gotta ask a question. How did you guys like Darnell Wright in his limited snaps that he got? Like, because that wide receiver conditioning was hitting hard. That there's one play where like half the line was, I don't know what it's called right now. That's the top of my head. They're all pulling, and he was leading that way. He was a bull on a mission. He was. I love that. I know that he did the wrong conditioning, but it looks like it's working on his favor.
Yeah, no, I loved Darnell Wright on Saturday. Is the play you're talking about the Khalil Herbert toss play that was like perfectly executed across the board? Oh my God, everybody on that play. He looked great. Tevin Jenkins looked great. Ja'Tyre Carter looked great. Cole Kmet looked great. Like the pulling on the offensive line on that play as a whole looked fantastic. And sorry. I was super impressed. Like he looked super, super quick off the line. He was super quick in space. I think you just saw what I just saw. Was it Zeke signing with the Patriots?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
How weird. Zeke's a Patriot. Yeah. Anyways,
everything always happens when I'm doing podcasts.
It's odd.
It's the equivalent of Nico in math classes. I do a podcast, something big happens. It's insane.
Yeah, I got the Yannick Ngakoue news when I was recording my Falcons video. So, anyways, the point is, like, Darnell Wright looked awesome. Another play that I was really impressed by, the passing play to Khalil Herbert, where Fields threw the touchdown, right? If you look on the back side of the offensive line where Wright is, he actually got beat off the snap by the edge rusher that was up against him. But I was so impressed with his ability to, make up for it, like his recovery speed, because as soon as he gets beat, he flipped his hips like a goddamn safety, completely locked his feet into the ground. His anchor was perfect. Like his anchor is fantastic. And he set up shop and he was a little bendy on the play, but like the guy was coming at a really weird angle. So I get it, but he like bought Fields an extra second or two to end up getting that ball off. Like if he doesn't recover like that, Fields is getting sacked. So I was, that's a long-winded way of saying I was really, really impressed with the limited stuff we saw to him. Granted, it's preseason, but like his quickness was the big thing, and that's going to translate.
Yeah.
Was Darnell Wright your number one tackle in the draft, wasn't he? Okay, I thought I
got a lot of shit for it, but yeah.
I mean, dude is like he passed, the receiver conditioning, which is insane, like we've already established. I mean, he looks like an insane athlete, especially for his size. He's a strong dude. Again, one thing about preseason is they don't get enough snaps for me to get like an actual like idea of everything. But
Sure.
like from what we saw, which I'm gonna have to keep saying, I guess, prefacing everything, but from what we saw, he looks good. His strength is just something that blows me away. I was watching some film on the game. I don't remember what play was because I was focusing on him, but like he like can recover so quickly even when he gets beat just from his strength. It's absolutely insane.
If he gets his hands on somebody, they're not getting by him. His core is so unbelievably strong, and he's got so much power in his legs too. Like that dude's lower half is wonderful. Like I said, his anchor is great. It's really hard to beat him when he's able to set up shop and really like plant his feet and get into it. And when you have a guy who's that big and that strong and can move that quickly, holy cow. Like I knew Wright was quick in college, and that's a big reason why I liked him. But him doing the wide receiver conditioning blew me away. I don't know how many other tackles could do that in the league. And I know we're talking about a rookie, but like, I really don't think there's that many, especially not right tackles. Because you think right tackles, they're not known for being athletic and for moving and for getting out in space and blowing people up. There's a few exceptions, sure, but most right tackles are the anchor of your offensive line. And Darnell Wright is still that. So you got the best of both worlds in him. But no, Paris Johnson's better. Shut up. Darnell Wright's that guy.
But yeah. I like Wright.
I did like Paris Johnson. I
like Paris Johnson a lot too. I don't mean to disrespect him, but I'm just saying I got a lot of shit for saying that Paris Johnson wasn't as good as Darnell Wright. And I'm not taking a victory lap by any means. I'm not ignorant enough to take a victory lap after 10 snaps in preseason, but I'm confident in my take. I do think Darnell Wright's going to be the best tackle out of this class.
I mean, I like the take because I feel like once you get to like around the draft time, I mean, yes, there's always going to be like those players who are like noticeably better. So therefore, like the consensus is they're like number one. But sometimes it's like, why does every single analyst have the same player as the top player at that position when it shouldn't be like that obvious?
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like a lot of people like to play it safe and just pick he's the best guy because everyone says he's the best guy, and then they just go with that. So I do like
Paris is great. It's just the dude only played a year of tackle in college. He was a guard for 2 or 3 years. And, when he was a tackle, he had a lot of bad reps. It wasn't like he was perfect. Now, he had a lot of good ones, too. It was almost up and down. And I do think Paris is going to be awesome, don't get me wrong. But, like, you look at the other tackles in this class, Anton Harrison's cool. He probably had the highest floor out of all of them, but he also has the lowest ceiling. So, like, he's not going to be a superstar. He's going to be a good tackle. And then you look at Broderick Jones, he's the complete opposite. His ceiling's super high. He has a low floor, and he has the potential to be a freakish tackle. And then I think Darnell Wright was the perfect medium, where he has the upside of being, an all-pro tackle, but at the very least, you're getting a consistent, solid starter. And I love it.
There was it Louis Riddick, I think, said something about like Darnell Wright, like as a rookie, could be like an all-pro level tackle.
Yeah, Louis Riddick's so up and down with me, man. He talks about the Bears a lot, which is both good and bad, because I don't know if you guys remember when he was like Matt Nagy's biggest meat writer for years.
I do not. But
he was a big Nagy and a big Trubisky guy. Like when Trubisky, his first preseason, he was talking about the Bears found their guy, and they didn't.
We all thought that. Okay.
I mean, yeah, but he was the only like analyst saying it, and he stuck with that take for a while. And then once Trubisky failed, he was like, well, Trubisky sucked. It wasn't Matt Nagy's fault. Yeah. No. But I don't know. I like him a lot more than like Clay Harbor. Clay Harbor's a moron. I hate him. Have him blocked on Twitter. Can't stand him. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. I do think Darnell Wright's going to be awesome. And I'm really excited for him.
Another talking point that all of us are going to hate, but I have to bring it up because it's been all over Twitter. How about them air yards?
Who cares? The Chiefs had the most yards after catch in the league last year. Nobody's calling Mahomes a yak merchant. And besides, even if Fields was a yak merchant, it's the first fucking game of the preseason. Who cares?
And even with it, I think we got to be more impressed by the rest of the team because Khalil got done there with amazing blocks. So did DJ. Like they have, both the guys are amazingly talented, but everyone around them did that play perfectly.
Yeah. That's my takeaway from that. My takeaway isn't anything to do with Fields. It's just that he has help.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm excited about.
Like last year, Fields literally was the entire offense, like himself. Now he gets help, and then it's an issue, and it's just. I feel like the way I'm viewing it is Fields gets so much unnecessary hate, but think about all of the past quarterbacks we've had. None of them have really gotten hate like that. And I'm taking it as
because people are
we have
scared.
a good quarterback. Yeah, like they're threatened by Fields' talent, and that's why they talk about him so much. Like I've never seen, like division rival fans or fans around the league, talk so much crap about Jay Cutler or Mitch Trubisky or I don't know, Andy Dalton, because they're not threatened by them.
No one's talking crap on Andy Dalton. He's such a lovely guy.
We do love Andy Dalton. But the point is, they talk so much crap on Fields is because dude's talent, like his potential, which I know we're going into year 3, so we can't just keep relying on potential. We have to see it actually on the field. But his potential is out of this world. He's an insane athlete. He's got the perfect, build for a quarterback. I hate when people say he can't throw because he was a thrower from college. That was his strong suit. I think of him more. I said this on the team preview from last season, that he's a quarterback, like he's a pass first quarterback that also just so happens to be an insane athlete. And last year we did have to run the ball. Like he ran the ball so much because
his number one wide receiver was Dainty Penis. Yeah. Like
it's like we have weapons for him now, and I know people are like, oh, well, you had Mooney last year and you traded for Claypool. Mooney missed half the year, and Claypool played 3 games and got hurt, and it was didn't know the playbook. That's not an equivalent.
Yeah, his number one pass catcher was Cole Kmet, who everyone swears up and down sucks, but apparently Fields had plenty of help. So which one is it?
It's dumb. But now you have DJ Moore, who is I don't think he's an elite number 1 receiver because
top 10 to 15.
He is a number 1 receiver, which is something we have not had since
Brandon Marshall or since Allen Robinson in 2018.
Oh, I actually forgot Allen Robinson used to be good. But
yeah, 2018 Allen Robinson was the number 1 guy, and then he immediately fell off a cliff.
But you have DJ Moore, Mooney, who I love Mooney. My girlfriend loves Mooney. I know Grayson loves Mooney. He's a fan favorite kind of a guy. He is not a number 1 receiver. I don't think that's a disrespectful thing to say. He's just not. But he is a great number 2 receiver, and that's what he's he might even be our receiver 3 with depending on how Claypool does.
I don't see Claypool overtaking Mooney.
Listen. I'm just saying.
I love the confidence in him. I love it.
I'm one of those people. Sometimes I will admit I do overreact from training camp and preseason. And I know he had such a good training camp, and seeing all of the notifications of him doing so well, kind of I wasn't high on him when we got him. I was not a big Claypool guy.
I was, and I still am.
Which is fair, but
yeah, I'm Claypool's biggest fan in the Bears fan base at this point.
I liked the idea of trading for a Claypool because we didn't really have a big bodied go get it kind of receiver. So I like that. I just wasn't a huge Claypool guy personally, but I could be proven wrong. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of terrible takes all the time, but
we all do.
Claypool, I'm liking him. He had a really good training camp. I think his thing was never a talent issue. It was more of a maturity kind of a thing. And
I wouldn't even say maturity. I would just say he struggled adapting, which is fair because from everything we've heard, Getsy's playbook is pretty complex, especially for the receivers. And getting traded mid-season after everything that's gone on with Claypool, him being a beloved receiver, going to a hated receiver, and then getting a really bad rap in the media because of all the TikTok stuff and celebrating. And, it's the guy's been through a lot. And I think he's just been struggling to find a place to settle in And I'm hoping this offseason really push him that direction. Now, the shitty thing is he won't be around after this season, most likely, because what's going to happen is he's either going to suck and we're not going to re-sign him, or he's going to be really good and we're not going to want to pay him.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't, it's all for naught with us. But hey, if it helps Fields' development, I'm all for it.
I will say, with how much money we have, and I'm not saying that Poles is the kind of guy to just throw money around, but with how much money we have for like next offseason, it wouldn't shock me if he re-signs both Mooney and Claypool.
It would
I don't
depend
think
on
it's
the money.
Yeah, obviously, but I don't think it's like the likely option, but I also wouldn't be too shocked if it does happen because, for how the league is, it's so offensive based. You have to have a franchise quarterback, and if Claypool does good and he helps with the development of Fields, and it makes Fields' job easier having 3 really good receivers, I could see them just re-signing both. I know, they drafted Scott to kind of eventually take over, which is fair, but also you could look at it the aspect of have 3 good receivers, and then it's never a bad idea to have as many weapons as humanly possible, and have Scott as just a rotational guy.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. I mean, there's a world where it happens. I just don't know how likely it is because of, the money he's already spent and the guys he's still got to worry about paying. Like, just right now, he already paid Kmet, which is great. I agree he should have been the first priority out of the guys that are on the block, right? But now you've got to worry about Mooney, Claypool, and Jalen Johnson. And I think it's kind of unrealistic to expect all 3 of those guys to get paid. It's possible, but I don't think it's super realistic. And I think no matter what, Claypool's the odd man out of those 3.
Definitely.
Unless Mooney absolutely sucks this year and Claypool comes out of nowhere and has 1,100 yards, which I don't see happening.
He's
but
over 1,000, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't though. I know that him and Tyler Scott are very similar body types and kind of play styles.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, obviously, I don't know an insane amount about Tyler Scott because I'm not gonna lie and act like I watched all of the Tyler Scott film from college. But one thing I really like about Mooney, even though he's not the biggest guy, he's actually a very solid blocker down the field. I feel like every big play we ever have, there's Mooney is somewhere in there down the field making a key block to allow it to happen.
Mooney's a good blocker. DJ Moore loves to block. And then obviously all of our backs not named Khalil Herbert can block. We have a great fullback. All of our tight ends not named Robert Tonyan can block. We've got a lot of guys that like to block, and I love that. I'm such a nerd for skill players blocking. That's why I love the 49, not to get too off topic, but that's why I love the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan so much, because everyone on that team has to block, and the Bears are starting to get like that. They were during the preseason game, they were asking DJ Moore about how much he likes to block, and he was raving about it, and I loved it. But yeah, Mooney's absolutely, despite his, I think it's a little bit different now because Homeboy's built like Doug Martin now. But
oh yeah, I forgot about his bulk up this offseason.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I love that Mooney brings that to the table as a blocker. And that's one thing I will knock Claypool for. He's not a high effort blocker. Claypool, I love the guy, but he has Grayson said earlier, Tyreek Stevenson has main character energy. Claypool kind of does too, but not in the good way. Tyreek Stevenson's the main character everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
Claypool's kind of the almost edgy main character where he's everyone at school hates me, I'm a loner, that kind of vibe.
It's like Thor in the first Thor movie. Thor is you don't really like him, he's kind of just what the hell. And then you got Loki, and everyone loves Loki, and that's Tyreek Stevenson.
Fair. Yeah, and that's not a shot at Claypool. I love Claypool, but I will agree there are I will say there are some things that are iffy.
Yeah. I think we should just, since we're already 45 minutes into the recording, we should start shuffling into our winners of our preseason week 1. Who do you think on the team, not on the Titans, what are our winners? Starting off, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll say one that I know no one's gonna say. Oh shit!
Wait.
Okay, the Bears just claimed 2 guys off waivers.
Two guys.
Keone Dang, I think is how you say his name. He's a linebacker. And then Michael Walker from the Falcons, who's like actually kind of good, which is shocking. I don't know why we need another linebacker, but okay.
We have all of the linebackers. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
it.
It's a Chicago thing.
No, I'm fair, but I like that signing. That's a really good signing. Michael Walker's been pretty solid for the Falcons. I don't know why they cut him in the first place.
I didn't even know they cut him, to be honest.
Yes, but I like that a lot for us. But no, the player that stood out to me, and like I said, it's someone I know neither of you are going to say, so I'll go ahead and take it, is Robert Burns, the rookie fullback out of Connecticut. He was playing hard yesterday. Like, love the dude. He's never going to make our roster because the Bears aren't going to carry two fullbacks, and Kari's one of the best in the game. So it's not like he's going to take his job. But the guy was blocking his ass off. He was playing aggressive. He was headhunting out there almost. There were a lot of plays where you could hear the contact. I swear to God, the one hit he had, I live in Maryland. I could hear it all the way out in my backyard. Like he was awesome. The big Roschon Johnson run yesterday was the one that stood out to me. It was like a 24-yard run or whatever, but he was the lead blocker and popped the linebacker just enough to get the lane opened up for Roschon. And like, I think he had a tackle on special teams too. Like he was playing a little bit on kick coverage and whatnot. So I liked what I saw out of him. I think he's somebody that if he keeps playing at this level, again, he's not going to make our roster, but I think he's a guy that's could start at fullback on another team if he keeps playing at this level. I'm rooting like hell for him. I love him.
Very, very fair. To transition from someone who probably won't, which again, not from talent, just because we have, one of the best fullbacks in football. Mm-hmm. So some guy who I think is, I don't think he's solidified his spot, but like it pretty much has, is Terrell Lewis, the defensive end or edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, from out of Alabama, formerly from the Rams. I
52?
remember him coming out. Yeah, he's 52.
Okay.
I remember him coming out of
baby Mac.
Like starting off on the Rams. As we know, the Rams are kind of like my secondary team because Cooper Kupp. But he didn't really do much, and it wasn't based on a talent thing. It was more of he got injured a lot, and then they were in a, hey, let's win a Super Bowl mode now. And so they, instead of waiting for him to develop, they went out and got Leonard Floyd to kind of take over his role. So his role got completely diminished. And I think it was a mutual thing of why they released. They hey, maybe you can get some playing time somewhere else. And then he signed on late last season with the practice squad. And they also kind of played him out of position, to be fair. I think they played him more of a linebacker than as a pass rusher.
Leonard Floyd is kind of if that's who he replaced in LA, which I didn't know, but it makes sense. The way he plays, he's almost like a stand-up linebacker. Pass rusher. He does a lot of run defense for him.
That's kind of what they were doing with Lewis, and that's just not really his game. I think he's more of just a pure pass rusher. But we get him on the practice squad. We have probably the worst defensive line in football. Going into the offseason. I think ours is probably still bottom tier just because it's very unproven at every level. And we have, rotational guys, not very many alpha number one defensive lineman kind of guys. But I liked the signing whenever it happened last season. I thought it was a very under the radar kind of I didn't think he was going to be a superstar or a number one defensive end, but I liked him as a rotational piece. He was a very good pass rusher at Alabama. But going into the preseason game, I thought it was a very big game for him, to kind of the defensive end spots on the roster and for actually getting playing time is pretty wide open, other than, obviously Ngakoue. So, he had a strong showing to get said playing time or to get the roster spot. And he, from what I saw, pretty much the entire time, he was doing a great job of getting to the backfield. He had 2 sacks. One of those was a forced fumble on Malik Willis. I think obviously he's not going to be a superstar or anything, but as a rotational piece on the defensive line, I was a big fan of his yesterday. I felt like he did a really good job getting off the edge. The bend on him is insane coming across, coming off the edge. I feel like that was something that definitely stood out, especially on the forced fumble, which I think I love a good pass rush. Obviously our team was awful at that last year. He had, half as many sacks as our leader in sacks from last season. So in one game, which is impressive. I think that he's going to be a very solid rotational piece, and we're going to hear his name quite often once we get to the regular season.
Yeah. To build off that, I talk about it all the time. My favorite like metaphor or simile or whatever you want to call it in football is Batman and Robin, right? Because you have your Batmans, you have your Robins, and then I don't talk about it as much, but you have your Alfreds on the defensive line, right? Your Batman's your alpha. He's the best guy in the room. That's your guys like Nick Bosa, Max Crosby, whoever. Bears kind of have one in Yannick Ngakoue. I would akin him to like Ben Affleck's Batman, where he's good. He gets the job done, but he's not the best. He's nobody's favorite. He doesn't, blow anybody away, but he's good enough. And then you have your Robins, and they're like your supporters. And we have a couple of those. I would say Travis Gibson's a Robin. Terrell Lewis was playing himself like a Robin. And then you have your Alfreds who, are still play a pretty important role. They're not as important. They're not doing a lot of the dirty work, but they're behind the scenes. They're supporting. They're you can't have Batman and Robin without Alfred, right? And Terrell Lewis going into the game was somebody that I thought would be more of like an Alfred for our defense. But I was really impressed by what I saw out of him. He's definitely more of like a Robin. He's like a Tim Drake. Not the best in the world, but definitely pretty good. Like if he's Tim Drake, then Travis Gibson was out there as Dick Grayson, right? Sure, a lot of people just clicked off. I just got way too nerdy. I don't care. These are how I bring my passions together. Okay. So like I agree. I was really, really impressed with Terrell Lewis. And I think he's somebody that at this point I would say is a lock to make the 53 if he keeps playing like this. And I think him as the first guy off the bench with Ngakoue and Gibson as your two starting ends is fantastic for what we have. Obviously you can do better, but I think Lewis is he's a really good defensive lineman. I like what I saw out of him.
I do want to point out, though, I think I've mentioned this probably more than necessary. One thing that Eberflus, his defense, like that was pointed out from his time in Indianapolis, is his defense has never really had like a high-end defensive end. Like you had mentioned earlier, it takes like, linebacker, 3-tech, and like a nickel cornerback. And then like I saw this chart that was like how the resources they spent, whether it be like money in free agency or draft picks on their defensive side of the ball. And like literally their defensive ends were like the cheapest and least like resources spent on the position. And I mean, he made it work. They still had a very good defense. Al-Qadim Muhammad, who made an appearance with the Bears last year, who did absolutely nothing.
And then went back to the Colts.
Yes, he did. I think he had a sack in preseason, actually. But
ironic.
But like we don't need obviously it doesn't hurt to have an elite pass rusher because it's a very important position to me, like in my mind. But he's made it work without one before. So I'm not super confident, but I'm also not like worried that like, oh, we're gonna have the worst defense in football type of a thing.
To play devil's advocate for a moment, because I like in an ideal Eberflus defense, you don't need those crazy DNs. But the reason for that is because of how dominant the interior presence is in most of his defenses. And at this very moment, we do not have a DeForest Buckner.
I love DeForest Buckner so much.
Now, Gervon Dexter has the upside of that, I would say. Or maybe even Zach Pickens. But as of right this moment, we don't have a crazy dominant, 3-tech that's going to wreck shit and draw the attention so the DNs can kind of come in and clean up. So long-term, yes, I agree completely. But right now, I do think we're still going to have a really bad defensive line unless somebody takes a massive step up as a rookie, or even if Justin Jones, internalizes Packers fans hating him and becomes the second coming of Christ out there. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening. Not yet.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think we're going to be like
dunk on you because you're right. It's just I think right this second it matters a little bit more than it normally would.
I mean, I'm not saying like we're going to have like an elite defense or like anything like that. I just think we're not going to be like absolute, bottom dwellers or whatever, bottom of the barrel kind of guys.
Not.
I think we'll be like a top 20-ish kind of defense.
I'd be okay with top 20. Top 20 would be cool with me after what we saw last year. Give it to me.
Now, call me biased. I think our offense is going to be closer to top 10. I don't know if it'll be top 10, but I think it'll be closer. I am expecting a huge year from Fields.
With the weapons we have, if the offensive line holds up, I don't think that's crazy.
Even our backup offensive line did pretty well during the preseason, which I know is usually a huge issue in preseason. Is backup offensive linemen are the equivalent of throwing me back there. So I mean, even our backups did pretty solid.
I got excited when Doug Cameron came out. So I think I know it might be odd to say, but I think my winner for last week was Jalen Jones on special teams, more specifically.
Okay.
I love special teams pick.
Every kickoff, there was halftime the special teamers get mixed up in my mind. I don't know the numbers. Miller probably knows them by heart, but Jalen Jones was in every single kickoff. He was there. If the ball was going to Tyjae Spears, Jalen Jones was right there taking. He was part of the tackle at least, and see that hustle and see that grind that's how you make the 53. Oh, that's how you make the 53-man roster and make a statement, and then eventually, get some reps on defense. Eventually, the Trail Davis method. You have one good game on special teams, you get your opportunities, and you make a mark. And I think that Jalen Jones, if given the time, could potentially be a serviceable, at least, corner behind our three main ones.
Yeah, because absolutely in the modern NFL, you got to have 4 to 5 corners you're comfortable with trotting out onto the field. And, I would say right now we have 4. Actually, no. I would say we might actually have 5 right now because of the other rookie. He didn't get to play last week. Yeah, Terrell Smith. But obviously we've heard a lot of good things about him in camp. We haven't gotten to see him play yet, so maybe I shouldn't jump the gun on that. But obviously you've got the big 3 with Johnson and Gordon and Stevenson. And then Kendall Vildor as your dime corner isn't bad. But that being said, the more the merrier at corner. Because we know this is a league where teams are investing heavy in the wide receiver position. It's a passing league. You want to be able to stop the passing game. And, injuries happen. Guys get gassed. You want to keep your guys fresh. Having a guy like Jalen Jones who can sub in and just be scrappy, because that's what he is. He is a scrappy dude. I'm all for it. And like Grayson said, the impact he'll have on special teams is great. He's another guy I'm rooting for to make the 53 for sure.
I think he definitely will, especially after Saturday.
If he keeps it up. Yeah.
It's weird that there's people who literally started for us for multiple games last year who are not even going to make the team.
Yeah.
Like you had said, we're not going to carry 8 cornerbacks. And a guy who started quite a few games last year was Josh Blackwell. I don't want to completely write him off already, but his chances of making the roster probably not super high. Which sucks. I love an underdog story, and I feel like him being from undrafted free agent thrown into a starting position, and he did okay. He wasn't horrendous. Is an enjoyable story, but yeah, I think we have too much depth at the position now that it's he's probably not gonna stay on the team.
Another guy I was really impressed with yesterday was Zach Pickens, which I'm happy about. Because I was really worried when we started to hear reports that he was going to play nose, because he is the worst run defending defensive lineman I have ever seen grace a football field. But the kid can rush the passer. Fantastic pass rusher. And, he had a sack on Saturday and had a couple reps where he was looking really good. He's so quick out of his stance despite being a wide individual, which I can say because I am also a wide individual. But no, I really liked what he brought to the table. And then Javon Dexter next to him. I'm kind of conflicted with him because the more I go back and watch his reps, the less impressed I am, but also the more impressed I am, if that makes sense.
Sure.
His get off was obviously the big thing coming out of Florida. He would stand essentially straight up, wait 2 seconds, and then jog at the quarterback. And it worked more than it should have, which is weird. And then we hear all these reports during training camp that he was asked to mirror guards, which is not at all what defensive tackles are supposed to do. So either that's an excuse that's really weird, or Florida's defensive coordinator doesn't know the basics of running a defensive line. But either way, he was coming out yesterday and he was getting off the ball better. He's still not there. He still has a ways to go. And, if he spent 2-3 years doing it one way, learning it another way, that being your first in-game experience doing it, I get it. But it was a pairing with that, and I think he needs to learn, when you're firing off the ball, how to get leverage better, because that was another thing. He would stand straight up, and he's a tall dude, so his leverage was bad in college. And now that he's firing off the ball, he has a better chance to get up underneath the guys, and I think he needs to learn how to use that more. So I liked what I saw in terms of progression, but the more I watch his reps, the more oh, he should have done this, he should have done that, he could have been better here, he could have been better there. Like the one play, the touchdown that the Titans had on the goal line, Jervon Dexter kind of whiffed on that play, because if he would have gotten off the ball quicker, it would have been stopped. They wouldn't have been able to jump over the line, because I think he would have been able to stonewall it. But I was really, like I said, I was really impressed with Pickens, and I think Dexter, if he can keep it up, keep moving in the right direction, we can have something there.
Jared, you got anyone else you want to talk about?
One that is, I feel like neither of you would have ever thought of mentioning, because it's not an important position.
Oh, I know who you're going to say.
This is going to sound purely biased, as we all know. My boy Trenton Gill, what a game! I mean, listen, I know most people, whenever it's on punts, you don't really look at the punter or care that much about it, but I love punters. I love Trenton Gill.
Oh, yeah.
His leg is insane. I feel like, again,
Matariza who
was biased, but Trent Gill, best punter of his draft class. He's already a top 10 punter. Dude is insane. And I think even his punts, we punted from our deep into our side of the field, and my man was booming these punts the entire length of the field. Insane. Big game for my guy. I just wanted to give him a quick shout out.
All right, since Jared didn't take the oop I gave him, I'm going to bring him up. Roshan Johnson looked fantastic.
That was my other choice, but I was like, Trent Gill needs some kind of shout out here.
that first run was amazing.
No, listen, dude, I see so much David Montgomery in that guy in the best way possible. But the thing is, I see Monty in him, but he's bigger. He's more physical. He's more aggressive. He's more consistent. He picks up yards after contact a lot better. I think his hands are better. I think he's a better, he is, to me, going to be a better David Montgomery. I've said this for months now. I really do think Roshan Johnson's going to be a better David Montgomery. And I don't want to go too crazy because it's the preseason. Most of what I'm saying is based off my evaluation on him coming out of college. But we saw a lot of that in preseason. Like Grayson said, his first run, the 24-yard run were both great. The catch he had on the screen pass where he should have been dropped 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and somehow managed to get the ball over the line of scrimmage despite a really bad throw by PJ Walker leading him into a defender. He was pass blocking really well. That was another thing. They were asking him to do everything. He was pass blocking, He was catching the ball out of the backfield. They were running designed pass plays for him, like screens. He was running the ball well. It gives me a lot of confidence that they were testing him on everything in that game, because that shows me that they wanted to see, what he could do. And as someone who is really pushing this, Roshan Johnson's going to be RB1 by the end of the year. I really liked what I saw. Again, it's preseason. I'm not going to overreact too much, but if he keeps it up, running angry is going to translate no matter what. I don't care who you're playing. He was running angry, and I love it.
I don't know if you all saw on Twitter, but at practice today, Roshan was getting reps with the first team.
Mm-hmm.
He might be RB1 by the end of preseason just because how dominant he was on Saturday.
I know in the team preview, we kind of I don't want to say we hated on, but we kind of talked down Khalil Herbert, I think, a little bit more than we should have. Again, it was reasonable, it was reasonable what we said.
That wasn't true.
Yeah, his pass blocking still seems like an issue, and
he looked better yesterday. In the one pass blocking rep he had, he looked okay.
Yeah, which improvement is good, but his running is just still so explosive.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's an incredibly explosive ball player.
That I think David has mentioned this quite a few times. I don't think we'll have a true RB1. I think literally everyone's just gonna get carries.
They're gonna feed the hot hand at least for the first half of the season, I would imagine.
Yeah, and all of our running backs did pretty solid. I mean, Herbert looked good. He looked like
Homer looked
what you
good.
expect. Homer looked good. Treston Ebner didn't really do anything. I'm still going to hold out hope until he's not on the team. But
I didn't see much from Foreman either, which shocked me.
I think
Foreman
like
didn't get that many carries.
I think he had like 2 rushes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't see much from him.
He got stuffed at the line of scrimmage, I think, both times. Which I mean, like there wasn't a hole to run through, so it's not really his fault. It's why like judging like running backs is kind of harder than other positions, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I still like. I mean, I don't think he's going to be anything great, but he'll be like a serviceable running back, just like the rest of the roster.
No, I think I don't know. I don't want to say this because it's disrespectful to a pretty good bat, but I do think Foreman is going to be made kind of obsolete pretty quickly if Roshan picks things up, because Foreman was meant to be the thunder to Herbert's lightning. And then they lucked into Roshan Johnson sitting there in the 4th round. They're like, okay. And now they've got somebody who I think can be better than Foreman as the thunder to Herbert's lightning.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those situations where you have like a backup plan, but your backup plan has to come before your actual plan, and then you're just stuck with both of the plans.
Right.
2 quarterback issue.
Yeah, except when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. When you have 4 running backs, you feel pretty fucking good about it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But when you have 2 running backs that are the same.
Yeah. Speaking of Herbert, though, I want to ask you guys a question. This is something I saw on Twitter, or it was a clip of Herbert talking after the game. So obviously when Herbert at the end of his touchdown run, but reception, he had to fight his way into the end zone. Like he was dealing with some contact.
Yeah.
And he said that after the game, if you have a long run or a long reception or a long anything and get tackled inside the 5-yard line, Eberflus is fining them. Not like in an asshole way, but like his motivation. I think he said it's going to be like a fund that they're going to put towards something. So how do you guys feel about that? Because I've never heard of a team doing that before, and I think it's an interesting approach.
I don't know, but like my initial reaction is it's like I kind of love it. Like
because it's not like he's finding them, 30 grand or something. It's probably like $20, $30, something like that.
It's like a fun little thing, like because.
And who knows? Maybe at the end of the season, I'll use it to take all the guys to Six Flags or something.
Well, yeah, and I know like players, from a player perspective, if you do have a big play and then get tackled like just short of the end zone, I know that like you kind of like. I don't want to use the word embarrassed because it's not that drastic, but it's kind of like oh shoot, 2 more yards and I get a touchdown kind of a thing. So I kind of like a little extra motivation because, I mean, it obviously seems to work because Herbert literally should not have made it into the end zone on that play.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out well. So, I mean, if it works, it works. I'm all for it.
Honestly, I love it. Like, not to equivalent Pee Wee football to NFL football, but when I played O-line, it was if I got a hold, it was 5 laps around the whole field. Like, that type of like discipline and like mentality that Eberflus is installing to his guys. Well, he has got a penalty to do it. That's probably going to end up being like probably more than a pizza party, but a pizza party type thing is. I think it's a very much positive thing we need to give to our offense to give us those big plays, to give us those grit, to give us those 6 points when we really need them down the goal line, especially.
Now, I looked it up to try to see if I couldn't find if Herbert said how much money Eberflus would find him. I couldn't, but I did see somebody reply to a tweet of the video, and they said that Tariq Cohen would have been broke as fuck if he played for Eberflus, which that's rude, but also true and kind of funny.
Also, that just reminds me of remember the Titans. It's like, you drop the ball, you run a mile, you miss a block, you run a mile.
And that's the thing. Eberflus is a very old school coach. And that's why I love him
Coach
so much.
Boone out there.
Yeah. He's awesome. I know, here's the thing. People love these coaches that are kind of eccentric and characters. People love their Mike McDaniels. He's a goofy little stoner guy that vapes on the sidelines, or they love Andy Reid because he's a big fat goofball that talks about wanting to eat a cheeseburger every 5 minutes. Or they love Belichick because he talks like this and shows no emotion and hates life, but is actually very happy because he's very successful. And then you have Matt Eberflus, who's just kind of he's got dad vibes. honestly. He's got like middle-aged dad energy. Like, he's the type of man I would trust with hamburgers at the cookout, right? Like, if I was having a barbecue and I could pick one NFL coach to sit there with an apron and flip burgers and make, stuff on the grill, it would be Eberflus. He's got that vibe to him. And I think a lot of people mesh with that type of vibe because it's hard to hate somebody like that. Somebody that's just like chill, laid back, seems like a pretty happy guy. But I love also in Kari Blasingame, I saw him talking about this on an interview he did with, I think it was the CHGO podcast, where he was talking about how Eberflus made it apparent from day one that it's his locker room. He's not your friend. He's not your buddy. He is your coach. He's in charge. And they all clicked with that. Whereas you had Matt Nagy, he wanted to be buddy-buddy with everybody. He was throwing dance parties in the locker room and being a goofball and all that kind of stuff. And, that's fine to a certain extent. But when it comes down to it, you got to have a leader. That's what a head coach is. They are the leader of men. And Nagy was never that. Eberflus is that. I can speak from experience playing football, or not playing football, but working with a coach that was very buddy-buddy back in high school. It didn't work. His teams were bad, and his players didn't respect him. They would talk shit behind his back all the time. That's not something you want out of a coach. You want a guy that knows when it's time to get serious, but also has a little bit of that lighthearted side to him. You can tell, it's not like Eberflus's Belichick where he's a dick and it works. He's got the happy medium, and I love that. And also, I'm a corny white man myself, so I'm a sucker for a corny white dude, and I think Eberflus has that to him. He's not as open about it as I am. He hides it a good bit. But I just know Eberflus loves a good dad joke. I feel like he's definitely cracking dad jokes in the film room, and all the players are grown, and he laughs to himself, and he's like, "What? I thought it was funny." And, you got Getsy in the corner, kind of with his head down, laughing underneath his hand. I can see that being the dynamic in the Bears locker room, and I love it. It's just the energy is so different with this team, and I adore it after everything they were dealing with Nagy and Pace.
I'm gonna be honest. This I kind of liked Club Dub. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'm not shitting on Club Dub. I'm shitting on the way Nagy went about it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying players shouldn't have fun. I know they all enjoyed Club Dub. That's great. I'm glad they were having fun. I just don't like how not serious Nagy was as a whole, and I think Club Dub's a good example of that. Because, like I said, you can be fun, you can do goofy stuff, but you got to find a medium. Because, a better example, look at Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos last year. He was playing cahoots with his players, he was quizzing them on Star Wars trivia, and the team was a mess. I'm a Star Wars nerd, too. If I was playing football, I don't want my coach asking me who was playing the drums in Jabba the Hutt's band. How many players on that team do you think know who Max Rebo is, right? I don't. I know who Max Rebo is because Max Rebo is that fucking guy. But nobody. That's goofiness. These are grown men. They're there to get shit done. They're not there to do dumb stuff. And that's what Hackett was doing. Nagy was leaning into that. And Club Dub's great. After the game, reward the players, but you still got to have a serious side to you. And Nagy never had that.
I mean, we didn't win a lot of games last year, as we all know. But I mean, even week 1 last year, whenever we beat the 49ers, they didn't have a Club Dub, but they had a little, dance
the slip and slide
thing. Because they posted a video on the team page of them all dancing and whatnot.
And like I said, I love the players having fun. I'm not saying everybody needs to be sad and serious and angry and, boring.
We're not
have
the Patriots.
Fun. Right. This isn't the Patriots, but you got to have a medium. You got to have a balance. Right.
Well, I mean,
we don't want to be the Patriots, but we also don't want to be the Broncos.
The thing with the fine line is because it's different because I don't know exactly how the inner workings of an NFL locker room work because I didn't do that. But in high school, I didn't play football because I was a very, very skinny dude. But I did play basketball, so I still have the idea of locker room and whatnot. Going from my junior year of high school. The coach was kind of, I would say he was more kind of in that happy medium where he was serious when he needed to be serious, but it was still a fun time and the team enjoyed themselves. And my school, we were a small school. We kind of suck at all the sports, but we made the playoffs for the first time in a fat minute. My senior year, we had a new coach because the other guy only lasted like a year, which sucked. But we went to this new coach who was very much like a yell at you kind of dude, like literally screamed at you every second he had the chance, which it's different from professional sports because it wasn't my literal job where I needed to do it to make money. I did it as a pastime, extracurricular thing, love the sport of basketball. But literally, like anytime I did anything, it was me, like him in my face screaming at me about fucking up something. And it literally ruined my love for the sport of basketball. Like I quit basketball like a few weeks into my senior year because I just couldn't deal with it. Like I did not enjoy practice. I didn't enjoy games. Like I didn't enjoy it at all anymore. So I quit, which again is different for professional because they're getting paid to do it. So they kind of had to just suck it up and deal with it. But I feel like you have to have kind of like you said, the medium, because you have to be serious enough to where you get the job done, but then you also have to have that team chemistry that comes with the goofiness, which I know I don't want to say Nagy, but like the 2018 Bears, I felt like we were serious enough to get the job done. It might be because of Vic Fangio. I'm not in the locker room.
That's a big thing is Vic, no matter what locker room he's in, he's a big presence. And I feel like a lot of here's the thing, right? You got to remember, these are grown men. These aren't high schoolers. These aren't peewee. These aren't middle school. This is grown men who need to look at a coach as an authority figure, because that's what a coach is at the end of the day. And authority figures can be fun, right? You can have like the fun history teacher everybody had in high school was an authority figure, but he was chill. But you also don't necessarily want to be that guy because that's too chill. But then on the flip side, you also don't want to be the asshole gym teacher that, like you said, yelled in everybody's face. You want the happy medium. You want, I don't know, the older, dry history teacher who would crack jokes from time to time, but got shit done, made sure you did your work. That's the best way I can think to describe what my ideal head coach would be like. And I think Eberflus is very much that. Like, this team's still having fun. We had videos of them throwing water balloons at each other after practice the other day. And that went viral for all the wrong reasons, because Packers fans thought it was funny that Justin Fields missed a throw, whatever. That's the point. It's a fucking water balloon. It doesn't matter. But stuff like that is cool after play or after practice and stuff. It's just Nagy was a silly, goofy guy. And he's cool as an assistant coach with that type of vibe.
I think he's a great assistant coach, offensive coordinator type. I think he's just not a leader.
No, and that's the thing. Yeah, Eberflus is very clearly a leader, and Nagy never was. And that's like you said in 2018, Vic Fangio was very much a leader. From everything we see, obviously, I'm making big assumptions here based off of what we've seen and what people say. Because I've never met these people in person. I've never been in a locker room with these guys. So I could be completely off, and Matt Nagy was the best leader of men ever, and it was something else. But from the way the team played, the way people talked about him, the way he acted, he doesn't seem like another thing was he would throw people under the bus a lot, namely Trubisky. And a good leader's not doing that. Eberflus is never going to be somebody to throw somebody under the bus. He doesn't seem like that type of guy. You never see Vic Fangio throw people under the bus. You never see Andy Reid do it, Kyle Shanahan. It's always, he's not doing great, but we're going to help him. We're going to work on this, this, and this. It's not Matt Nagy being like, well, I can't run my plays because somebody can't execute them right. That was very much Nagy's career in press conferences, was openly saying, I got to dumb down the playbook because Mitch doesn't understand it. You don't tell people that. You don't say that publicly. That's not something you do. It's ridiculous. Or the whole wise thing. It's tough. Nagy was a goober. Eberflus, not a goober. That's the point of this whole rant.
We got a little bit off topic, but this started off talking about our winners. We went for Roshan Johnson, other way Eberflus and Nagy. On the flip side of all that, there wasn't very many losers, but do you guys have any losers off the top of the cranium?
Obviously we talked in depth about Velus Jones, so that goes without saying. PJ Walker looked really rough.
Yeah, sadly.
I don't think that's vindictive of the type of player he is. I still have confidence in PJ as a backup, but a lot of his throws were off target. He looked pretty antsy in the pocket. He did not have a good game. So I would say easily. Now I'm not going to go as far as a lot of people on Twitter are saying like Tyson Bagent's going to take his job and all that kind of stuff. I think that's crazy.
Mhm.
But I do think PJ Walker looked pretty rough.
That first pick was horrid. That it was nowhere in the
It was
city.
really bad.
I love PJ Walker on our team preview. Like that was like my free agent. Like having a good backup is the key to having like a successful like team overall when your guy goes down. So having PJ Walker struggle that much was not a good sight for me.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, for like the losers of the game, you kind of have to reach quite a bit for the most. But we played a pretty all around like pretty great game. I mean, yeah, there was some bad plays, but that happens in literally any game ever. If you want me to give like go out on a complete limb stretch, like maybe Rasheem Green, I know I was watching someone had broken down the film on that first play, like the big passing play where Kyler Gordon like lit up the dude from behind. It was Rasheem Green, like he was supposed to like keep the contain on a quarterback like Willis, but he like broke inside too much, which caused Willis to get out of the pocket, and like it was a broken play that ended up in like 30-yard gain or 20-yard gain or whatever it was. Which that was just one play, so that's just a complete stretch. But I mean, you could say like the D line on that first drive before they kind of like, got into the game. But like anything's a stretch. They played well enough that I'm not gonna call out really anyone.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't think there was that many bad pieces. I think that the two main ones were Velus and PJ Walker's disappointing performance, but I don't think overall we had a horror game from anyone.
Oh,
those looking puppies.
What is it? Did they release someone?
Carson just signed with the Ravens.
This is at the Ravens.
I like the Ravens, so I will respect it.
I know, but that means he can't come back officially.
I love my boy.
I knew he wasn't coming back, but now it's official.
DHC season in Baltimore. Hey, he's in your state now, bro.
He's teaming up with Roquan.
He's coming to me. He's coming for me specifically. He's going to come tackle me on a crucial 3rd and long, and I'm really scared.
He's a Chicago Bears legend, and we need to retire at number 36.
Well, it seems like the Ravens might need a fullback because Ricard's not a guard. So
shut up. Never say that to me again, or I will come to your house, rip those glasses off your face, and shove them down your throat.
I know he was practicing with the offensive linemen. Maybe it's because he's such a good blocker that he has to work with offensive linemen.
He has to teach the guards how to block.
Exactly.
So what's going on? Okay, I don't know if you guys can even hear me, but real conspiracy shit here. Okay, tinfoil hat time. Completely off topic. The Ravens are going to make everyone think he's a guard. Then the first play of the season, they're going to put him at guard. Run some crazy motion somehow where it's going to be legal for the guard to shift into the backfield. That's not possible, by the way. Very illegal, but they're going to make it legal because fuck it, rule of cool. He's going to shift into the backfield, completely throw off the defense, and then he's going to take the handoff and run 99 yards for a touchdown. And then he'll move back to fullback full time.
I respect it.
This is all an elaborate ploy for the first play of the season.
I was just thinking they're gonna do like a super jumbo set, but okay.
It's impressive that he would run 99 yards, given he's not a super athlete, and they're down an offensive lineman.
He's committing to the bit.
All right, so wrapping up, the one final thing. What are you guys gonna look forward to? What are you guys excited for the Colts game coming up this Saturday or the Sunday? It's one of those days. What are you guys looking forward to?
I think the same thing kind of as this game. Just you don't get a huge sample size of the players, but like I want to see the rookies play. I know Javon Dexter got a little banged up because Travis Gibson,
his knee,
kamikazed into his knee for no reason, but. I just want to see like the rookies play well. I want to see Tyler Scott get a few more touches. He kind of had a quiet game this week. I mean, he had a fumble, which again happens. I'm not going to cut him now because he fumbled the ball one time in the first preseason game. But I want to see him get a few more touches. I'd like to see Roschon kind of maybe get a few carries with the first team. I don't know how likely that is, but I would like to see that.
Mhm.
And I don't know why Terrell Smith didn't play in the first game. I'm not going to lie. But I would like to see him play in the second game because he's been hyped up so much in training camp that I need to see it in game action.
Mhm. For me, the biggest thing is Jervon. Like I want to see what his get off looks like next week. I want that to improve every week, get a little bit quicker. I'm excited to see what Robert Burns does. Again, obviously, fullback's always going to be on my radar. And I want to see what Tyreek Stevenson looks like because obviously we didn't mention him with our winners, but it goes without saying he looked fantastic. We said that early on, and I'm excited to see if he's going to do that again. I want to see if he brings that same physicality if he's at the ball every play. And someone else I'm going to be watching for because he didn't make a lot of noise was Noah Sewell. I'm really, really hoping he does something this week. Like he did make some good plays. I'm not saying he sucked. I'm just saying I'd like to hear his name called. I'd like to see him make a little bit of noise, get a TFL, pick the ball off, something like that. But we'll have to see, obviously.
Where do you think Burns is going to go after he's eventually probably cut?
It depends. The fullback economy is weird. I'd have to see what teams are looking like, when the final 53s drop.
Fair.
I do want to point
I'd like to
out-
see him go to Carolina, though, because fuck Giovanni Ricci.
When we talked about the winners, though, I would like to also mention that we don't have to talk about it for long, but Travis Gibson also had a very good game after being like pushed to the bottom of the depth chart. I know Terrell Lewis was my winner and he did good like rushing the passer. Gibson also did a good job getting to the quarterback, but also in the run game, he did a very, very solid job, in my opinion. The only really downside I saw in the game was his, I don't remember if he got pushed or what happened, but when he hit Dexter's knee and it gave me a heart attack. But other than that, super solid game. Because I know once we expected the big season from him, he was kind of like the only pass rusher last year, and so he got double teamed, and that he's not that good of a pass rusher to beat a double team. He was in it was 1-on-1 a lot this game, and he kind of he did very good, and with only one guy blocking him, he got to the quarterback pretty quickly.
The big thing with Gibson is he's, again, a Robin. He's not somebody that you want as your number one pass rusher. And he was asked to do that last year after Robert Quinn got traded, and he just can't. That's not him. He doesn't do that. So him now is at best, number 2. I think is going to play a lot better, especially because he's going to be rotating a lot. Like, obviously, all of our defensive ends are going to rotate, but I think we're going to see him rotating in and out a lot more than we see Ngakoue, just because Ngakoue is a lot better. So with him being a lot more fresh and, being in there to throw off the defensive line a little, or the offensive line a little bit more, I do think he's going to be better this year. I don't think he's going to be 7 sacks again, but I do think he'll be pretty solid.
That's very fair.
I'm glad we got to see the Thor celebration again because I missed it.
I was going to point out, I think we're kind of building the Avengers with the Bears players. We have, Thor with Travis Gibson, and now we have Spider-Man with Kyler Gordon. So we're just slowly assembling the Avengers roster, which is pretty cool.
As far as I'm concerned, Darnell writes the Hulk.
I was going to say Tremaine Edmonds, but okay.
I was going to say Javon Dexter, but
Edmonds is Cap.
Fair. That's fair.
What else do we got? Poles is Nick Fury, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to see him with an eye patch.
Who's our Iron Man?
So Claypool, I would surprise say, because he's I don't know.
I don't. We don't have anyone cocky enough to be Iron Man.
Well, Claypool is cocky, remember that Minnesota game when he was to Pittsburgh and.
Yeah. No, but we don't have anyone that's cocky and can back it up.
Trenton Gill.
Trenton Gill is Ant-Man, dude. He's such a Scott Lang.
All I know is at some point I'm going to go to a Bears training camp in a Trenton Gill jersey and beg him to sign it for me.
And he will.
My next jersey is going to be Trenton Gill.
My next is Kari. I'm really upset that I don't have one yet, but money's hard.
I gotta get.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't bought a jersey in forever. I don't have a Cole Kmet jersey, and he's probably my favorite player on the team. So
I got Kmet's jersey before he played a snap.
Yeah, the last jersey I bought was Justin Fields, which was before he played a snap, and then before that, it was I think Mac,
You want to know the last 2 jerseys I got?
Was it? Well, obviously, was it Komet was one of them, and then
Roquan and Monty. I got them for Christmas 2 years ago.
Oh no!
Or not 2 years ago. So not this most recent Christmas, but the Christmas before.
Oh damn!
I'm gonna send my Roquan jersey in and get the nameplate changed to Darnell Wright at some point.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
I guess
Can I trade my Mac one in for Terrell Lewis?
Don't do that to Mac. Mac was great. He didn't act like an asshole when he left.
No, I have players that obviously left the team, and I just for memories. I have a Brandon Marshall one. I have Mitch, Matt Forte. I would never change because I love Matt Forte, but
I have no qualms I have no issue wearing old players or players that have left and are playing for new teams. It's the guys that leave in a bad way. Like if I had an Amos jersey, I wouldn't wear that. I don't wear my Roquan Smith jersey. I wouldn't wear Anthony Miller jersey.
I have one.
Even though he's not an asshole, I just didn't like Anthony Miller.
Allen Robinson.
I wouldn't. Yeah, if I had an Allen Robinson jersey, I wouldn't wear that shit anymore.
Monty
didn't leave in a bad way.
I would wear a Monty. I still love Monty.
Yeah,
that's my boy.
Yes,
Monty left because we didn't want him.
Fair.
It's not like he left and was like, Bears fans suck. They're assholes. Or threw a hissy fit because he wasn't getting paid $100 million.
I know Bears fans still hate on him because he left to go to a rival, which makes sense. But there was a play from training camp when he fumbled the ball and people were like, hey, look, Monty
that was
sucks
so
now.
Cringy, dude. He loves us still.
Yeah,
don't be that guy.
To be fair, that ball
Monty
got absolutely
boy.
robbed in broad daylight. I'm finishing up my the looking forward to the Indianapolis Colts game. I am looking forward to Nate Davis existing because Bro has not been in pads since he signed here. What is going on? Does he got an injury? Do they not think he's ready to play for them? And if that's the issue, then we have a big issue.
Maybe his tummy hurts.
Well, I know there was a thing. Someone on Twitter had pointed out that he had an issue with practicing in training camp and practice and stuff back in Tennessee too. He's just one of those guys who just doesn't like practice, doesn't show up, and then just goes in the games and plays well. Which
it's not AI though.
I'm not a fan of.
Not talking about practice.
We're talking about practice.
I don't know. But, I mean, I don't want to throw him to the side, screw him. He doesn't practice. I don't want him on the team anymore. Given I'm not a huge fan of the mindset, I don't even know if it's true, if it's injury related. But even if he doesn't play, Ja'Tyre Carter, I think played well enough. I don't think he'll be a above average or great lineman or anything, but I think he'll be serviceable enough that
he's a good swing guard.
I think he could fill in well enough that it wouldn't be our entire offense went to complete shit because we are missing Nate Davis. But I know Nate Davis at practice today, he didn't even do the team drills. He just did individual ones.
He was still out of pads, and I think it's frustrating that he's not practicing with the team.
This is going to sound really bad, but I'm hoping it's an injury.
Well, yeah, if it's an injury, perfectly fine. But if he's just sitting out, no pads, doesn't want to do the shit, we signed the man for 3 years, and it's going to be a big problem when it comes down to cap season, and when it comes down to figuring out what the hell to do with him. It's going to be a problem if he doesn't start practicing soon. You guys anything else to add?
Yeah, if Nate Davis doesn't start practicing soon, I'm going to have to step in, and he's not going to like that. I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands.
David Miller at right guard.
No, I'm not going to play.
No, you're playing right guard. You don't have a choice.
No, I'm going to make him play.
You've been dressed like the Army.
He's not going to. No, he's not going to like me walking onto the field and getting in his face and telling him to play. He's not. I don't want to have to take
stern talking to.
I am going to give him a stern but gentle talking to.
How big is Nate Davis?
Listen, I'm going to walk up to him. Listen here, bucko. I'm tired of your shenanigans, and I need you to get out there on that field right now, young man.
You're going to walk up to all 6'3", 350 pounds of Nate Davis.
Almost half a foot taller than me, 100 pounds heavier than me. Yeah, I fear no man. Except for Aaron Donald, but he's not Aaron Donald.
You're not scared of DK?
No, DK's a goofy guy.
Aaron
Aaron Donald
Donald's a guy.
assaults people.
So
Do you not
does
remember when he literally assaulted a Bengals player during practice with a helmet? Like, there's that
So did
cold
Myles
ass
Garrett.
picture. I know, but there's that cold ass picture of him holding 2 helmets in his hands, like down here ready to beat somebody. Like, that scares me.
He also practices with knives, which is the
That
most
is true.
intense thing I've ever heard.
Aaron Donald.
He's a maniac. The more when you actually look in depth on it, Aaron Donald is insane.
That's why you're going to trade me him in our Madden league.
All right, we're gonna wrap up.
I suppose so. Kari Blasting game, top 5 fullback.
Bro got a fucking catch. I was so happy when I saw
He
that.
did,
I'm like,
dude.
Oh, first play of the game, yeah.
I made unholy noises.
I'm like, Miller is probably eating this shit up.
That was honestly whenever Kari does anything, my first thought is just Miller football.
I hope that's the case for multiple people on this planet. That's my goal.
I feel like anybody who's associated with you in any way just thinks of you when they see Kari.
I think a lot of people think that way. I don't want to talk myself up too much, but I think a lot of people think that way whenever they see a fullback. Like the amount of tweets I get
also,
tagged in where someone's like, "Oh my god, look, this fullback did a thing."
Yeah, that's
like,
also me.
yeah.
Honestly, fullbacks is just Miller football. It's your brand. My
Like
brand
when
is
Pat,
tight ends
the
and
Pat
Trent Gill.
Ricard thing, dude. When I got tagged in that, I had like 15 people tag me in different tweets talking about Ricard playing at guard, and I had 15 people tag me and 3 people DM me. And in every situation, I had to be like, "It's not real. I refuse to accept it."
Yeah,
but it was tough. Anyways, Curry good win game. Just want to put it out there. The Bears are now 1-0. Shit. The Chicago Bears are now 1-0 when Kari Blasting game catches the football.
Let's give it up. Let's do it.
Every game, give him at least 1 catch. I do think that this is completely off topic, and I know we're trying to wrap it up, but I just want to add in. I think that that's a good sign that he'll actually get involved in the offense because I like him as a full. Like I know in the preseason game a few years ago when he was with Tennessee against us, like they kept giving him the ball, and he is good with the ball in his hands. It's impressive, and I'd like to see us like add that somewhere in the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. He is one of the more dynamic fullbacks in football. He played halfback at Vanderbilt. I want to say I'm pretty sure it was Vanderbilt.
It was Vanderbilt,
and he was actually pretty good or pretty decent by Vanderbilt standards. And the issue with him was he was a little slower than halfbacks, but by fullback standards, he's one of the quicker ones in the league. Good hands, smart runner. Like I was saying early in the offseason before we brought in Roschon Johnson and Travis Homer, like if the Bears wanted to work Kari as the third down back, I would have been all for it because it would work. But, we got guys to do that now, which means Kari doesn't have to try to play running back, thankfully, because that is disgraceful to any sort of fullback.
Is it, though?
Yes.
There's a new age of running backs. Why can't there be a new age of fullbacks?
There are a new age of fullback, yeah. There are a new age of fullbacks. It's called everyone's like Kyle Juszczyk, or a lot of them are, and Kari's one of them.
I kind of like that kind of fullback though, because they at least they still have bad ratings on Madden, but they at least get good enough, like above average. Madden really needs to fix their fullback ratings. I'm not gonna lie.
They make me sad.
But you also can't upgrade them because they don't I don't run the ball with them, and they don't get
That's why whenever I do a Madden franchise, I go in and tweak all the fullback ratings.
I don't have the motivation to do that. I'm lazy.
That's tough.
Fullbacks. All right, but thank you guys for watching or listening to this podcast. All our socials will be in the description as well as on the screen. Yeah, you guys have anything you guys would like to shout out specifically right now?
Yeah, this was hectic. Don't worry, it'll get better.
Eventually, hopefully. But yeah, bye.